and welcome back to another Monday 10-minute training. I'm Dr. Rob Van Bergen, and today we're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to focus specifically on PTSD, anxiety, and depression, albeit I believe that a lot of these protocols work for most mental health issues beyond that as well. But these three are particularly big issues that often accompany chronic pain and chronic disease. We're likely all familiar with these terms. They're thrown around a lot. It's not like they're really rare anymore. But the question is, how do we weave these into the lives of those with chronic illness? And how do we approach these things as treatments? So first off, anxiety is probably the most common. Everyone struggling with anything over time has or will, in my experience, generated some form of moderate to severe anxiety. This is based around this concept of a fear factor of almost when chronic pain or chronic disease symptoms will prove to be disabling. This often means that even if you're feeling good in the moment, you may be concerned that the symptoms will return. And that in and of itself will start a vicious cycle, one in which anxiety and stress kind of fuels the fire of inflammation in the body and the brain, which causes more pain and in turn leads to more anxiety and stress. And the cycle continues on. Depression is a similar situation. People experiencing a depressed mood, like feeling sad, irritable, or empty. People may also feel a loss of pleasure or interest in activities. In addition to symptoms like poor concentration, hopelessness about the future, feelings of excessive guilt or low self-worth, poor sleep, weight gains or changes, that could maybe weight loss, weight gain, also reflected with appetite changes, or just feeling very tired or low in energy. And of course, the stuff that everyone's always really concerned about, which is thoughts of suicide or dying. These things can all manifest themselves as well. Now, at the outset of the mental health issues most commonly connected to chronic pain, we have PTSD, or as it's most commonly known, post-traumatic stress disorder. This is a mental and behavioral disorder that develops from experiencing a traumatic event, such as sexual assault, warfare, traffic collisions, child abuse, domestic violence, or other threats on a person's general life or well-being. One such threat appears to be chronic disease. Now, those that have dealt with the trauma of chronic illness seem to develop symptoms similar to those of PTSD, whether that's connected to an initial injury or even the traumatic loss of their lives prior to when they started to experience their symptoms. So what did they lose out on? Examples I always think of there are, maybe they got to spend more time with the grandkids and now they can't travel due to their chronic illness. That can kind of trigger a form of PTSD to a degree. Now, really, those that have dealt with the trauma of this, they are experiencing those PTSD symptoms. And I find that regardless of these issues, we want to address all of them. I know that they kind of fall under this one umbrella of in our microcurrent world, but by actually taking these on head on and trying to look at the differences between them, we can get some progress. First and foremost, some form of counseling can really, really help. I do encourage that. I'm not a believer that we can just say, oh, we don't need any help, we don't need counseling at all. So while I certainly recommend that you do look into working with a counselor to work through these mental health conditions, when it comes to what we do best, we are obviously going to be looking at microcurrent and energy medicine. And yes, we have protocols even for these mental health conditions. So let's jump into these with the help of a few slides. Just bear with me while I get those pulled up. There we are. Perfect. All right, so first off, some of this may be very familiar to you, but if it isn't, let's go through this. So the first thing would be for anxiety, I'm always looking into vagus nerve stimulation and to alpha ear clips. Now, the reason is what we're really wanting to achieve is a physical shift out of fight or flight mode and into a parasympathetic calm state. Two standout treatments for this are going to be alpha ear clips and vagus nerve stimulation. A lesser known treatment could involve using the brush electrode with the alpha 7 to 12 hertz program and kind of painting over the arms. So let's just run through those a little bit here for those of you who are unfamiliar with these protocols. So the first thing that you're going to look at is the alpha ear clips. In most cases, this is an immediate responsive treatment to stress and anxiety. You place the ear clips on the earlobes, one on each lobe. You connect them by wires to the device, and you run 7 to 12 hertz through the ear clips. Usually at the beginning, if you're really stressed, I encourage some deep breathing accompanying this as well to help pull you out of that. What this does is it actually changes the brainwave patterns to a relaxed, calm state from whatever they may be sitting at the time, which is likely a stress state. The next would be vagus nerve stimulation. Now, I always like the Y probe for this, and you essentially feel on the left-hand side of your neck for the pulse that you're looking for. So you're just going to be quiet so you can feel it. And then you want to go, I actually missed it, usually right on there. There. Then you want to go right behind it with the probe, apply a small amount of pressure, and then pull forward just a little bit to trap that vagus nerve. You're going to set the device to 7 to 12 hertz, okay? And then you're going to run a comfortable power level through that. Now, the vagus nerve, you're going to be kind of looking for that jiggle. Some people find they need to go a little bit further back, but usually this lands about an inch or a whole Y electrode below your earlobe. So you just kind of put that there and go down, and that's going to give you roughly the right spot. You should feel that comfortable jiggle and keep it comfortable. The next thing would be to use the brush electrode. I know, the use for the brush that is not PET-based. So what we typically do is we set the device to that 7 to 12 hertz again, and we adjust the power till we can feel it. And then what I like to do with this is just kind of brush the brush over gently without applying too much pressure. Do it on the forearms here. And I like to do all over. There's a lot of pathways in here that can help you relax. And this just feels generally nice. So if you're dealing with anxiety in the moment, this is a great way of calming it down. Okay. So that's a good use for the brush as well. Let's get back to our slides really quickly here. So that's the anxiety piece. Next, we're going to talk about depression and PTSD, which we kind of lump into the same thing. And we're talking about gamma for the brain here. While symptoms of depression and PTSD certainly do differ, treatment from an energy medicine standpoint does not. Although the mechanism is unclear, we do see that symptoms and even the condition itself can clear up from the use of gamma waves on the brain. Gamma is a naturally rare-ish brainwave that is running between 32 and 45 hertz. It's essential for brain health over the long term as it helps clean out the brain. Unfortunately, achieving gamma can be very, very challenging. With energy medicine, we're able to utilize the gamma waves and expose our brain to gamma essentially unnaturally, but naturally in the same way that it is equal to our body's frequency and current. Now, exposure is best delivered through the trigeminal nerve itself. And in fact, the trigeminal nerve branches on the forehead specifically. And the brain directly as well, with either PEMF or conductive pads. So, for example, the Hache, which I still have the Hache here from when I did my presentation the other day, but the Hache, the Sanachi, and Hache mode, placing that right on the third eye directly. So that's the center of your forehead, will allow the beam to hit the middle of the brain. And essentially, it gets to the pineal gland, and it helps to change the entire brainwave patterns to gamma. So again, that is 32 to 45 hertz, which you're going to want to set it to. The other option is to use really any form of conductive pads and try and keep them to the center of your forehead. Don't go too far to the sides. You can cut your conductive pads down to size if you need to. But doing that will allow you to deliver the current directly through the third eye into the brain. That is not as effective as the PEMF option, but it does work pretty well. Other options would be things like the Y probe, taking the Y probe, placing it in the center of the forehead and running the program as well, or even just really using the something like the ear clips. You could try that, though ear clips and gamma is not something we've done a huge amount of work with, but it should have a similar effect to the alpha while exposing the brain to gamma waves. So you've got these multiple different options here, but the trick is to achieve a gamma state for the brain to help with depression, to help with PTSD symptoms by cleaning the brain, getting rid of all the plaques in the brain and essentially allowing it to function and process better. So that kind of brings us to the end of today's 10-minute training. Hopefully you found this useful in what we're able to achieve with microcurrent, and it's a good refresher for those of you looking for that. If nothing else, the little anxiety tip with the brush might be new to you, and hopefully you'll find that an enjoyable experience too. It's become one of my favorite ways of calming myself down, just because it feels so nice to do it. So having a brush on hand for that is definitely nice. So otherwise, I hope you'll join me next week for another Monday 10-minute training. So take care, everyone, and any questions you have, feel free to post them below. Thank you.